Hello, hello everybody. Uh, Thank you for joining us and that you decided to see the film I Human today. And today we are with film director Tonje Hessen-Shea. If I'm correct me if I'm telling your surname and if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. So correct me.
Oh, it was really well said.
Thank you. So filmmaker will join us today and we'll have conversation with her. So as you know, maybe you already been in this watch part of our festival. So you are participants of this Q&A session and you can ask any question about the film or about our Tonje's work, which she did before, or about her future work. So you can ask any questions you like and you can do that on your right above. So please do that and I will read out loud to Tonje your questions. You can ask also in Lithuanian and I will translate them to English. So we are really happy to have you here. And I will start our conversation and then I hope that people will join. And so I think we can start from the beginning that mostly your work, your documentaries focuses on new technologies and also many other topics like human rights, social justice, and also relationship between man and machine. And so can you tell me what drew you to these themes? And I know that one film ended and then you decided, oh, I have to make a film about that theme. But can you tell in general what drew you to these themes and technologies especially?
Yeah, well, I think for the last 15 years, I have been very interested in the changing relationship that we humans have to technology. And most of my films are driven by large international issues. And I'm very, very, interested in power structures. And there's a lot of power behind technology. So I got the idea for iHuman when I was working on Drone, which was my last film that looks at CIA's secret drone warfare. And while I was working on Drone, one of the things that really concerned me was to see how the weapons were becoming more and more autonomous. And when I started looking into, the technology behind that, I realized that artificial intelligence is not just changing modern warfare, but it's already all around us and is changing our lives, our society, and definitely our future. So that's when I decided to make iHuman, because this technology has sort of entered our lives in a way that has, it's called like, an invisible AI revolution. And for me, it's incredibly important that we take a step back and think about how do we want to develop this technology? How do we want to implement it into our lives, to make sure that we are going the right way?
You mentioned in your answer about AI revolution. Do you think that it's already started? Because scientists are saying that revolution will start soon, or others are saying that we are in the midst of a revolution. So what do you think?
Well, I definitely think that we are in the midst of a revolution. When I got the idea for iHuman, that was back in 2014. And then nobody was talking about AI. Nobody, really, it wasn't on the agenda. Since then, we've just seen an explosion of AI development. And we are right now in the middle of what is called sort of the new Big Bang. And this technology is developing so incredibly fast. And it is also said to be the most powerful, far-reaching and disruptive technology of our times. So it's just incredibly important that we realize what kind of challenges, and especially what kind of ethical challenges it is that we are facing with this technology.
And this theme is so broad. There is many themes inside the AI technology, and you touched quite a few of them. And can you tell us, because you interviewed a lot of people, and there's a lot of interesting questions you asked and they talk about. So, but during the editing process and also before the editing process, so you had to have some kind of plan in what kind of way your film will go, and so what will be the most important things you want to tell. So can you tell about this part of the film and how you decided that way?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very interesting question. Well, I think it's important to say that, you know, I'm absolutely not against artificial intelligence. I'm extremely fascinated by the technology. And like any technology, AI is a tool that you can use for good, and you can use it as a weapon. But when I started with this film, I was also really curious about all the possibilities that this technology has, because there's so many amazing possibilities, or at least that's how they're selling this technology. So, but in the beginning, when I started this production, I really wanted to kind of show, you know, all the positive benefits that this technology can have. But after attending a lot of tech conferences and doing 80 interviews for this film, with some of the leading people on the front lines of AI development and sort of the mind leaders of the AI industry, I just started feeling that, you know, something was not right. And I just had this gut feeling that there is so much hype and so many empty words and fluff. And I started feeling like I was part of some kind of tech orgy. Where nobody is really discussing the ethical challenges that we are facing with this technology. So that's why I decided to make a film that shows the big span of how AI is being used in our lives, how it is a threat to our very democracy, and how we're sort of being governed by this new algorithmic world order, where you have tech companies that have more power than entire nations, and are using more money to develop AI than entire nations. And this power concentration is something that I think is very dangerous in our world, and something that we really need to do something about.
And that's true that you said that the people you interviewed with, some of them were pioneers of this and professionals of AI industry. So can you tell about the access and where were many people who didn't want to talk, and those who talked, some of them, it's interesting why they decided to talk, because they knew that the film will travel quite a bit around the world.
Well, I think, you know, for most documentarians, access is the process that takes the longest time. And with iHuman, we spent years getting access to the computer scientist in the film. And I feel extremely fortunate to have been able to spend this many years with people like Elias Sutskever at OpenAI, or Jürgen Schmidhuber, who's by many considered to be one of the fathers of artificial intelligence. That being said, you know, we also spent around 5 years trying to get access to Google and Facebook, and to see the arrogance of these big tech companies and the amount of power that they have as far as, you know, how they control our information and what we know about the world, and not wanting to answer some simple questions to let us know how they are developing AI and how they're implementing AI into our everyday lives. Was extremely concerning and very provoking to me.
So, and that was the biggest challenges of a film, to reach them, or maybe there were much more bigger challenges than that during the film process?
Well, I think, you know, with a film like A Human, I mean, we had a lot of different challenges. I definitely think that, you know, the amount of time that we spent trying to knock on Google's door. You know, we flew over to London. We had private meetings. We were also always kind of kept very close to them opening the door. But after a while, I also started feeling like they were interviewing me. They really wanted to know what our take was, where we were going with the film. So after a while, you know, we had to be kind of careful how we threaded that line. But it really didn't matter where we were in the world. If it was in a small lab in Switzerland or at a major conference, if Google was in the building, we had to set down the cameras. And for a company to have that much power all around the world is something that, you know, makes my suspicion go up for sure.
So we have a few questions, more than a few questions, so I will start asking them, and I will encourage everybody who's watching us to ask questions. I will definitely ask everything you want to know. So Paulus is asking, could you tell us some more behind the scenes stories or information you didn't tell in the movie about AI, if that is not a secret?
Well, you know, we have 80 interviews and I don't know how many hours, but there's, you know, a lot of information out there. So, I mean, I'm afraid you have to be a little bit more specific. Is there any more, can you target in the question a little bit, or are just sort of more like behind, like fun behind the scenes stories, or? Mm-hmm.
Maybe he meant secret stories.
Secret stories. Well, I definitely think that, you know, we didn't go into some of the new developments that are going on in AI. And I will just encourage everybody to really pay attention, because one of the things that's demanded of us at this time in our history is that we stay informed so that we are aware of what is going on. And for example, like with OpenAI, you know, they were working on their text generator that they weren't supposed to release to the public because they felt like it was too dangerous. But then, you know, there's so much money in AI developments, and they decided to release, you know, one version of this text generator. And what this text generator does is that it generates text. It could be investigative, you know, articles into any sort of issue. It could be a poem or a book. And by using AI, they could generate a text that was impossible to determine if it was written by an AI or if it was written by a human. And when we're already at that level, you know, then it's just, I mean, what does that mean? What is true? What is not true? And then you add sort of the deep fake technology that is come out now. That even since we finished the film, this technology has excelled so fast that now, like, you know, you have AI or deep fake where you can make anybody say anything anywhere that is so good that it's also just pretty impossible to say if it's real or what's artificial. And then, you know, you get to this question of, well, you know, is that the end of truth? What does that mean as far as, you know, what we can learn about what's happening in the world? So there are some issues that we kind of touched on in the film that keep developing and that we knew kind of were coming in the pipeline. But I just, yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things actually with this production was to say when to put down the camera and stop filming and when to lock picture. Because what we had to do is that we kept the research and the shooting and the editing going kind of at the same time, so that we were as up to date as possible. with this film, but this technology is developing exponentially fast. So it's incredibly important that, you know, we stay on top of what's going on.
So Paul specified his question. So he's asking that he was hoping to hear about the Elon Musk brain chip interface. And so he's asking, did you had an interview with Elon Musk about it? And also, what is your opinion on that chip interface? And is it wrong or bad?
Well, Neuralink, which is Elon Musk's sort of AI interface that he hopes to, you know, integrate into our brain. Their offices were in the same office as OpenAI, where we met with Ilya throughout the years. And it is top secret. Nobody can really talk about it. They recently came out with a study where they are now testing this on a pig. And I mean, I could not understand at that point how they were going to process all the data from the pig's brain. But, you know, they were talking about how like they could tell that maybe the pig was using the nose or the snout in a different way. But it is far away from being tested on humans, as far as what Ilya told me. Elon Musk did not want to give us an interview for the film. But in some ways, I think that, you know, Ilya, who is head of research at OpenAI, maybe is more interesting to me anyways. I mean, Elon gets to say whatever he wants to say on all kinds of platforms, but to actually go in to see how the people that are developing this are thinking was more interesting to me.
And Rusne is asking, it's a bit different question, but she's wondering, she's asking Lithuanian, I will try to translate correctly as I could. So she's asking for you to, can you tell more about the idea which is heard on the film, that social media is kind of encouraging society to radicalization and extremes, and can you elaborate a bit more about this idea which was heard on the film?
Yeah, so this kind of goes back into, you know, the power of the tech companies. So one of the ways that they are making tremendous amount of money on us is to analyze and categorize us, and they are doing so they can predict our behavior. So that they can sell us more things. One of the ways that they do this is that they create what is called echo chambers, where when we go online, all of our information is basically tailored to us personally, so that we like everything that we see on our pages, so that we stay more and more or longer and longer on their platforms, so they can show us more and more advertisements, so that we become super consumers. One of the ways that they have figured out that we can, you know, end up staying longer is by showing us more and more extreme content in what we like, which has proven to increase the polarization that we're seeing today. We also know how Facebook has been a total disaster in that they are unable or unwilling to really figure out what is fake news, what is misinformation, what are all the, you know, zillion of fake profiles that are spreading everything from, you know, conspiracy theories or attacking free press. So, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, we know what happened with Trump and Brexit, but also in, you know, places like Myanmar or the Philippines or Brazil, this has devastating consequences. And also, you know, what's going on with the election in the States right now, it's a shit show. And we know also that the way that Trump used Cambridge Analytica in 2016 is nothing compared to the machine that he is rolling out right now. And the Republican or one that was close to Trump was bragging about this, you know, about a year ago, and he called it like, you know, the Death Star, I think. So they have basically a whole high rise that is full of people that are working on artificial intelligence systems that are now like targeting voters. So yeah, intense times for sure.
We just had our election day a few days ago.
How did it go?
It depends on my opinion. It went quite well, but maybe the viewers who are watching us, maybe they disagree with me. But we have more questions, and Sabine is asking, when you watch the film, you have a feeling that you are in a sci-fi movie. But when you understand that it's happening, then you understand that it's happening now. How do you think we can overcome the gap of knowledge about AI in our societies?
Well, I think that, you know, by having festival screenings of iHuman, that is one way. I also personally think that we can learn a lot from sci-fi films. I'm a big sci-fi fan myself, and I also think it's important to understand or to know, or I think this is very interesting, is that a lot of these big tech companies bring in sci-fi authors and sci-fi filmmakers to get inspired to see, you know, what is really the boundaries of our human imagination based on science. Because as soon as you can visualize something, it's also easier to make it. And in my work, I've been very interested in sort of the partnerships between, for example, the military and the entertainment industry, which is also kind of coined the militainment industry. So, for example, in the drone war, the U.S. Air Force collaborated with the makers of the video game Call of Duty to figure out what joystick that worked the best in a gaming situation, so that they could copy that technology in the drone war. And similarly, you know, with AI now too, we are seeing interfaces from sci-fi films that are, you know, coming into our daily lives. And also, you know, I mean, I personally think that both, you know, of course, 1984, but also Matrix were pretty prophetic in that, you know, we are kind of stuck in this network that we have built. And it's time that we wake up and, you know, take that red pill so that we realize that we're sort of living in our own like private Truman shows. But I think, you know, developing a new way of critical understanding and critical questioning and thinking is maybe the most crucial thing that we need to do right now. And that needs to be taught in schools. And also we need to encourage that on large scales in our societies.
And so there is also a question about, you a bit talked about that, but about the developing of the aesthetics of your film. And can you tell us about your cinematic choices more?
Yes, I would love to. That is one of my favorite questions. Well, in the making of iHuman, I'm also just extremely fascinated by how artificial intelligence quantifies everything. So everything is turned into data and points and patterns and codes. So for me, I wanted to create this feeling that, you know, everything is being analyzed and categorized, and then you sort of see how these patterns are slowly being manipulated and then taken over by artificial intelligence that sort of become more and more part of our world. And I had such a fantastic team that I got to work with on this film. And our VFX partner, Theodor Grunenboom, grew up as a hacker. So from the age of 14, he was part of this European creative hacker collaborative where they were always pushing their computers to do art in ways that a computer is not supposed to work. And he is also just as much of an AI nerd as myself. So we had a lot of, our process of sort of how do we visualize the technology that is invisible was really just so much fun. And I'm also really proud of, what we were able to create.
Thank you. And I'll ask one more question. It's also about AI, not about the cinematic choices, but we'll maybe come back to that after that. But people fall into two camps when it comes to AI. On the one hand, either they're really excited of the prospect of better society and that the AI will solve humanity's biggest challenges. And then on the other side, that it's beginning of the end and new era and the end of humanity or life form on Earth. So what do you think about this kind of division? Why it's either this or either that? And in my opinion, maybe it's not the right way to think about AI. And so how could we change that pattern? And because we will have to live with AI from now on.
Yeah, I think that that is a really good question to sort of end on too, because I think that a lot what is happening with AI and the discussions around AI is also this polarized debate where either AI is like good or it's evil. And while this debate is going on, we are already using a technology that is changing our lives and everything around us without us understanding the consequences of this. So instead of focusing on, all the amazing possibilities or all the, dangerous things with AI kind of taking over and like ruining our humanity, I really think that it's crucial for us to look at what is happening today so that we can make sure that the way that AI is developed and used in our lives today is done in the most ethical way. And then we have to come up with some really good international regulations, because right now we have the situation where technology is mostly left to technologists. So, you have the situation where you sort of have this AI mafia that has so much money, and they are developing and implementing AI without transparency and without accountability because there are no international regulations. So that is something that we have been working with from, the very beginning of iHuman. We have worked with impact and how can we impact not just, private individuals, but also policymakers on national and international levels. And it is complicated, but just because it's complicated doesn't mean that we can just say that, we don't want to take any responsibility for this and sort of let go of the steering wheel or close our eyes and dive off the cliff. Because, and one of the things that, some computer scientists that have watched this film, say that, but this is so dystopian. And for me, it's absolutely not dystopian, because for me, this is an antidote to the dystopian world that we can end up in if we don't deal with the ethical challenges that we are raising in the film. So yes, if we are able to focus on the challenges that we have to solve today, we can also ensure that the way we are moving forward is in the best possible way, not just for a tiny little tech elite, but for as much of humanity as possible.
Thank you. I want to remind all the participants that if you want to ask, you can ask questions, because we're going towards the end. And we have a question, what was the journey of the film after the premiere? And I also want to add, because I know that and you just mentioned that you were doing and you are doing social impact campaign, and I know some parts of that. So can you tell about the journey of your film, and then about the social impact campaign and what goals did you have with that? For example, I know that the second time I saw the film was when it was in IDFA, if I'm correct, and there was a conversation with whistleblower Edward Snowden afterwards. So, was it a part of the social impact campaign or not? So, there's a big question, few questions you can.
Well, I think yeah, that was some big questions. But basically, how we started to work with impact with iHuman was that basically from the idea of the film, we knew that impact was going to be a huge part of our journey. So just how do you reach your audience? How do you build partnerships, even throughout production? And then we were selected to Good Pitch, and through Good Pitch we met Danielle Turkov Wilson from Think Film Impact Production, and together with her, we kind of throughout the production we created special events. So we had high-level panels at both the Berlinale and in Cannes with policymakers from the EU and from the UN and the vice president of Microsoft. So for us, that was kind of part of building partnerships with the tech industry, but also with policymakers to kind of be part of the conversation that is especially going on in the EU right now around regulations. Then Snowden was the first one to actually see the film because for me, he is a big hero. And we were supposed to actually go to Moscow and interview him for the film, but that didn't work out. And then we were able to get him into sort of the launch of the film, and he participated at IDFA, and he also then joined us at CPH with a doc talk.
It was in CPH, yes.
Yeah, so IDFA was our world premiere, and that was also the only live international film festival that we have been to. Because right when we were supposed to launch, we were basically hit with COVID. So since then, we have done a lot of online screenings. But for example, with the Edward Snowden film talk, we reached close to 100,000 people. So that also shows that, there are kind of new possibilities in this digital realm that we have had to get used to. And even though I really it's been hard for me not to share this film with the audience in the movie theater, because this film is made for the big screen, with the visuals and especially in the soundtrack. There's a lot of bass that needs a good sound system. But also for me, like meeting the audience in person, is one of my favorite things as a director. So, but I am also just really grateful for, the new possibilities that have opened up in this. So we continue to show the film to as many people as possible, and we are also kind of continuing to figure out new ways of releasing the film digitally so that it will be more available to a wider audience. And that also goes hand in hand with our impact work. And we are, currently planning screening for the European Council in December. And there's lots of exciting things happening there.
We have a question also about audience, and before the question, Mariana wrote that thank you for this film, Tanya. It is very strong with many layers to discuss, made in a very clever and beautiful way that triggers our attention. Your film is urgent and needs to be seen by so many, but I'm wondering who is your primary audience, and do you wish to achieve if you could choose one objective?
if I wish to achieve one objective,
yes.
Well, I'd like to change the world. I'd like to, change the current sort of power dynamic that we have, where tech giants have so much power in the world and over our lives. I also want regulations to make sure that this technology doesn't end up creating a dystopian world that, we are all stuck in. And for me, like the main target audience group I have pretty much always with my film is the young audience, because to me, there's more hope maybe for change with them. Also, the digital world is their world more so maybe than mine and older generations. But I also feel that if you're able to sort of engage the young audience, then you can get other audience groups easier into that. So, and I just have to say that here in Norway, we have been part of this school screening program. And already we've shown the film to, I don't know, close to 20,000 Norwegian teenagers. And the questions and the engagement that I've gotten from the youth after showing the film has given me so much hope. So, yeah.
And I think we forgot to tell you that your film is in one of our competition programs in Film Festival. It's not actual a program, but we have a youth jury who are watching films, 10 or 8 films from all the Film Festival program, and they will discuss them and they will decide which is the best for youth. So your film is in this kind of competition, and youth are watching it, and we will tell you the results.
And how exciting. Thank you.
And so now we have to end with the last question from the audience. What is your favorite movies, and could you recommend a movie to watch?
Wow. So yeah, well, I have to choose one movie or what?
No, you can choose more.
Okay, so well, I definitely think that, for me, maybe Inception is still my favorite film. I love Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan's work. So I will just add Tenet to that list. I think Tenet is a brilliant film. But then Blade Runner is also up there, And I think if I was gonna recommend a film to watch right now, I would highly recommend people watch The Social Dilemma. It deals with a lot of issues that we spotlight in iHuman, but it really goes deeper into sort of how we have become so addicted to these tech platforms that are, taking most of our time and sort of manipulating our minds. So that is the film that I'd love to recommend people to watch right now.
Yeah, and it's documentary.
Yes.
Yes. So
it's on Netflix.
Yes, it's on Netflix. Okay, so I think we have to end because we took quite a lot of your time, and I want to thank you and thank all of you who joined and participated in Q&A session. And I hope that people will watch this film because they still have time until the end of the week. So encourage your friends and colleagues to watch the film. And one more time, thank you for you, Tanya. And
thank you. I loved all your questions. It was very, very interesting. So thank you.
Thank all of you. Thank you all. And have a nice evening.